Hey guys, this is Craig, and I'm going to make do another vlog on metal detecting. And I still haven't been able to. I reached out to a couple more people on Derek Ascar, and nobody knows anything. So I may try to uh, check on one of his kids to see if they know anything. But today I'm going to do a video. This video is about when I first started metal detecting, and I was a track star when I was in high school. I had a state record in the half mile, and I was in a lot of different adventures. And when I went to Virginia Tech, it was a horrible school, and I ended up breaking two bones in my heel and kind of ended my track career. And I got into tennis later, and I got good enough where I was a 5-0 to 5-5 player, and actually took sets off two former Davis Cup players. One was from Israel and another one was from Egypt. I used to play the Redskins and played the Bullet Center, and those guys were getting heat stroke against me, and they were going nuts because they said you don't even look tired, and I said, well, I was a track star, I don't really get tired. But I was kind of getting burned out on tennis when I was about 33. I had a bunch of injuries, and I kept having to rehabilitate, and I'd play for a couple months, and then I'd have something else I had to stop and fix. And uh, I was getting where I didn't really want to even play. And Mike, my friend Mike, called me and convinced me to come down to Fairlington to play, doubles. And when I got there, he was all excited, and he showed me a $1 gold piece that he just dug. And I didn't even know he'd been into metal detecting. And I remember the first person I ever saw metal detecting, it was when I was a kid down at Ocean City, Maryland. And I was probably about maybe 9 or 10 years old. And I saw this woman swinging this thing on this beach, and I asked my dad. I said, Dad, what's that? And he said, oh, it looks like a mine detector, like we had in Korea and stuff. And so I said, oh, really? And then we talked to the lady that ran the hotel, and she said, oh, that lady's been comes out every morning at 5 o'clock, and she's found just thousands of gold rings and stuff on the beaches. And that was my first time I'd ever seen a metal detector and heard about it. And so after we played, Mike and I played doubles, and then he invited me to come back over to his house, and he was showing me large cents. I'd never even heard of a large cent. I knew there were gold coins, but I knew nothing about them. He was showing me Mercury dimes and all kinds of silver coins and stuff. That's Morgan talking to me. But Indian head pennies and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And I asked him, I said, hey, you got any used metal detectors you'd like to sell? And it turned out he was selling them at the time. And I ended up getting a Royal Sabre Tesoro. And here's my hat from those days, the Tesoro hat. Now I use a Mind Lab hat, and I got a Dokta and an XP Deus hat. And but anyway, I got this Royal Sabre, and it was a fairly expensive machine. It had all these different functions like notch and blanker, and you could uh, you could knock out the pull tabs and still dig nickels and pennies, and higher uh, the higher coins. And so I I had heard somebody say that this World War II housing project that was nearby me in Alexandria was getting ready to. They were moving people out, and at the time it was full of welfare people, and so I decided to go up there and see if I could metal detect. And when I got up there, at the top of the hill, there was on the other side of the street was actually a fort during the Civil War, and many years later, I was in the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and the guy that was the head of the Sons of Confederate Veterans was lived in that house, and his family went way back in the Confederacy, and we actually years later metal detected the backyard, and it actually had a Crimean stove or heater in the yard made out of bricks, and nobody had ever seen anything like that in Alexandria, and it had been heard about, but that was a pretty funny find. And my friend Howard, when he was digging, he got a signal and he dug a breastplate, and it was on top of these bricks. And so we uncovered it, and then we were thinking that it's kind of rounded, and so archaeologists got a, they got a lot of, they thought that was pretty cool. But anyway, I started at the top of the hill, and there was all these, there was some brick houses, and then there was also some uh, just wood houses, and I noticed most of them were abandoned. So I started when I first got to the top of the hill. I just got out, parked the car, and then turned the machine on and started doing the little strip on along the sidewalk. And I hadn't gone 5 feet, and I got a signal. I had the discrimination up pretty high because I didn't want to dig junk, and so I dug about 10 pennies in a row, and that started, it was about a 2 block long, piece of strip along the sidewalk. And I got down, I guess about 3/4 of the way down to the end, and I got a signal, and I dug a wheat penny, and I was looking at the date of it, and it was 1909, and I didn't know anything about the dates or key coins or anything, and I thought, man, that's an old coin, and I remembered seeing wheat pennies. In fact, sometimes back in the 80s and stuff, you saw a wheat penny every once in a while on your change, but not anymore. And so when I got on down a little further, and I saw a guy with a metal detector coming toward me, and turned out it was this guy Ned, and he had a whites, and so he walks up to me and he goes, "How come you're using that machine?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Everybody uses whites machines." And I said, "I don't know anything about all this. I just bought this machine a couple days ago, and from a friend of mine, and I decided to come up here and metal detect." And I was starting to get annoyed with the guy, and he was going, "Oh no, you got to have a whites, and so I ended up showing him what I found, and I had this 1909 Indian head, wheat penny, and he got all excited, but then he said, "Oh, it's not a BBD," and I didn't know anything about that either. so anyway, he left, and I ended up with about 30 coins the first day, maybe 40, and then one wheat penny. And anyway, I came back the next day, and I started around the circle at the end. I hadn't gotten quite to the circle the day before, and I started going around there. There was like a circle, and then it went down the hill, and it seemed like there was there was a lot of brick houses at the circle. And so anyway, I was down there digging, and I dug a bunch more wheat pennies, and I got this soft signal. The machine wouldn't go but about maybe 4.5 inches on a penny or a dime, and I dug this 1917 Mercury dime up that was very worn, and I was just going, "Oh my God, it's a silver coin!" And I was sitting there looking at that thing for about 5 minutes, turning it over in my hand, and I was like, "Wow, this is so cool." And I heard something, and I saw three guys walk up, and every one of them had a whites. And the same thing happens. They're going, "Well, how come you have, that machine? You need to get one like this." And I said, "Yeah, I had this guy the other day tell me the same thing. I just got started." And I was getting really annoyed. I was like, these people this is kind of weird, or, they're knocking my machine down, and, I didn't know anything about it. And so anyway, I ended up hunting this World War II housing project for a couple years, and they ended up bulldozing it. And I ended up about, I guess, about 6 or 8 months after I had gotten the machine, I ended up selling it to one of my best friends, and he got into metal detecting. And many years later, I got my other best friend, into it, and so he bought the machine, and Mike had a Technetics 7800, and it took 14 batteries, AA, and they didn't last very long. And it had this boost, and it had tone ID, and you could tell a silver quarter instantly by the tone. It was amazing, but it had like a 7 or 8 inch coil on it, and it was not very deep, but most of the coins were only 3 to 5 inches deep. And so I started finding even more then, and you can almost like cherry pick for the silver coins. And so within a month, I had about 30 or 40 silver coins, and probably 150 wheat pennies. And over a 3-year period, I dug, I think it was close to 600 silver coins out of that site. And it was a fairly big site. I can't remember how many acres it was, but it was, there was probably at least 70, 80, 100 houses maybe. And then there was a recreational area, and that place was loaded. It's like nobody had hunted it before. I didn't even see any plugs. And so I ended up finding out that the nearby high school that I went to, there was a park, and it had also been a World War II housing project, but there wasn't any. When we were going to school there was a couple houses, but they'd taken them all out, and it was basically a park. But so I went up there one day with the Technetics, and I think it was on a Sunday, and I walked out into the back field, and I dug 3 silver quarters, Walking Liberty $50, and probably about 40 wheat pennies. And I ended up finding probably about 300 or 400 silver coins at that area. And at the Cameron Valley site, when they bulldozed, up the hill, it was just, the place was. We started finding Civil War bullets up at the top of the hill. There was one of the wooden houses had this. They all had side yards, not much of a front yard. And I was hunting the side yard, and I got this signal, and it was reading just below penny, or right around penny. And I dug a 69 caliber 3-ringer, and I ended up getting about 15 of them. And I told a couple of my friends, and they went over there and they got a couple. And all of a sudden, the cops showed up, and they were going, you're hunting all these people's property. And I said, there's nobody here. It's all welfare, and they've all been moved out pretty much. And they go, really? And I said, yeah. And this one woman cop was just a bitch. And so one of the guys I noticed was a sergeant, and he ended up saying, "Oh, they're not doing anything." He goes, "He's right. They're going to bulldoze this whole thing down and put in all these new houses." And it was all luxury condos and some regular single family homes up at the top of the hill. But it was he didn't mind, and so they just said, "Okay, go ahead." And it got so where that one guy would stop by every once in a while when he saw me up there and ask if I, found anything. One other thing I didn't mention was when I one day when I pulled up to my house, I decided to hunt the little piece of grass right by the car where I parked, and I think I got a wheat penny, and then I got a banging signal, and I dug down about 2 inches, and it was a Walking Liberty $50, and I was like, "Oh my God, look at that coin!" And it was funny. The right to the right of, if you're looking at the coin, right to the right of Liberty, somebody had scratched a Confederate flag into the coin, and I thought that was really cool. So I ended up finding about three or four more Walking Liberties at that Cameron Valley site, and then at the one at Chickapin, I found another 3 or 4 there. And the Chickapin site was unbelievable. I found probably 400 silver coins there. Even found some barber dimes. I got some shield nickels. Found some cavalry eagle buttons. I actually found bullets there too. Alexandria was the first city that was taken during the Civil War, and hundreds of thousands of troops converged. And I lived right by the Masonic Temple, and on the other side of the houses across the street from me, on the side was it was Fort Ellsworth, and later on Google Maps, in certain times of the day, you could see the outline of the trenches around the fort, and it was because of the bullets, the gunpowder spilled into the trenches, and they made the trenches it's got nitrates in it, so the grass got really green, and you could actually see the outlines of the fort there. And there was a couple trenches, and there was an old house site that nobody knew was there. But I looked at it. I started doing research, just like I did in college, and I just started figuring out, getting the old books and looking through them. And there was a place up the street that was part of the city, and it had some books on the history of Alexandria and the area around it. So I found out that at the start of the war there was about 150,000 troops came to Alexandria and occupied it for a while, and they were the first person that came into town was they saw Abraham Lincoln saw this giant Confederate flag flying from a tavern on King Street, and he could actually see it from the White House with a spyglass. And so that when the soldiers got there, the first day, there was I think it was a Colonel Ellsworth or something, and he went up to the top of the tavern early in the morning and grabbed the flag, and he started down to the landing, and he had the flag draped over his arms, and he goes, "Behold my trophy," and to his other men. And So James Jackson, who was the owner of the tavern, came out from behind a door with a shotgun and said, "Behold my trophy!" And boom, he blew the guy away. And then the other three soldiers stabbed and shot and killed James Jackson. So they became the two first martyrs of the Civil War. So I thought that was a pretty cool story. But the over the years, that I dug so many cool stuff out of that area, in Alexandria, and it was a port city that was it was incorporated as a city in 1749, which is pretty damn old. And I ended up finding years later, I found a 1682 8 real cob that I'll talk about probably down the road. But that was my first experience, the first 6 months to a year that I metal detected, and it's been a heck of a journey. I've been doing it. I think in June it'll be 38 years that I've been metal detecting. So tell me what you guys think. How you like these vlogs I'm doing, and maybe give me some questions. You might want to hear some other kind of story that I got or something. And I can talk about a lot of stuff. I got enough stories I could talk about for a year. I've been thinking about doing one a day on vlog. So tell me what you think, guys. All right, you guys have a great day.